What's up, people? Orseofkorse here, coming at you with another Paragon deck build. Today we're going to be looking at Gideon. So for Gideon, we're going to start out with the Archmagus. That's 65 energy damage, 100% damage bonus. We want that. We want him to hit hard. That 100% damage bonus plus the 65 energy damage, we'll make sure he does that, especially with his little meteor slam. That is, I think it's called Cosmic Rift, but whatever it's called, it does damage. Now, for my consumables, I did the Chrono Tonic, Mana Potion, Scout's Ward. Now, the reason I went with the Scout Ward with Gideon, usually you'll be mid lane, but even if you do get into one of the side lanes or off lanes, whatever you want to call them, you still want to have some type of vision. And the Scout Ward won't give you, like if you're mid, it won't give you vision on both sides, but at least, you know, you'll be able to see on one side, you know, so you can just adjust the way you're farming the minions so that you can see one side and have your ward guarding that other side. So you should be good, especially if you spec into your escape fairly early. So that's why I went to Scout Ward. You want that vision, especially if you're playing mid lane. Mana Potion, Gideon goes through mana like crazy. So I went with the Mana Potion, especially early game. You want to make sure you have that. I have like 3 Mana Potions. If you have more than that, you can, if you have more than one, you can definitely go 2 Mana Potions, 3 Mana Potions, whatever. As long as you make sure you adjust your play style to go with that. You play cautiously and you make sure you're, you know, looking. And I went with the Chrono Tonic instead of the Health Potion. It gives you +6 health regen and 7.5 cooldown reduction for 15 seconds. So it gives you a little bit of health, but it also gives you that cooldown reduction, which I think is a big deal, especially for Gideon. Even if you can get that rift up just a little bit, or his meteors down just a little bit faster, a little bit sooner, that your escape a little bit sooner. That's the difference between, you know, living and dying. I'm sure if you've been playing this game, you've seen that sometimes you survive with like 20 health. So I mean, cooldown reduction, big deal for me. So my equipment, I'll go over the major cards and then I'll go over the minor cards. So at the end of the game, my deck will look like this. It'll be Lore's Ward, Shadow Scroll, Solaris Reactor, another one, Staff of Adamant, and Tempered Plate. So I didn't go with a Tuned Plate or, yeah, Tuned Plate energy resistance, because I don't really have, it's usually the physical champions that give me worry. So I went with the physical, but if you feel like you do want to put the energy defense in there, feel free to do that, but I just went with physical. Now, the cards that I discard throughout the game: Mind Flow, a Tempered Plate, and Ring of Domini, sorry. So those are the ones that I discard, and we'll talk about those. So let's look at those cards first, the one that I discard throughout the game. So I usually start out with Mind Flow, and I have it with 3 basic mana, so 75 mana a piece. And then once you fully upgrade it, you get that 75 extra mana. Now the reason I go with Mind Flow is because of the passive. While you're over 50% mana, you get 12.5 cooldown. I like that. Plus early game, I like to have, you know, a nice stock of mana, you know, so I can really push lanes. I don't have to worry about going back or getting caught out without any mana. This card really makes it so that, you know, early game, you have a nice stock of mana. So that's why I keep this one with 3 basic manas. If you don't have Mind Flow, you can sub it with a card that just gives you mana or a cooldown reduction, but I go for it for the mana specifically. The next card that I usually build fairly early is the Tempered Plate, because as Gideons, from time to time, you are going to get caught out. If you do your ultimate, you're going to be sitting there defenseless, especially if you couldn't like get into the air above the enemy. And even if you do, like you have a Sparrow or a Twin Blast on the ground, they're still going to be able to shoot you. So I go with this one fairly early in the game, probably like my second card. Like I say, it depends. If you feel like you need more damage, then go more damage. But this is definitely usually my second or third card. Gives you 22 physical armor, 100 health, and then 44 physical armor. And I bumped that up with 3 minor guards, so it gives you a high amount of physical armor early game. So if you go this route, you're not going to be dealing heavy damage, but I'm not playing Gideon as a huge damage dealer anyway. I'm not trying to make this caster carry. You know, he's a support character for me, and that's how I play him. His meteors are going to hit for a lot regardless, even if you're not stacking damage early game. His meteors are still going to hit fairly hard. His ult's still going to hit fairly hard. So, I mean, as long as you're communicating with your team, you're doing a decent damage, you'll still be able to get kills and assists, and that's what it's about, right? So that's why I go with this one. It keeps those melee champions from jumping on you and just ripping you apart, like Chimera and Greystone, characters like that. And then the last card, I go with this one right here. And this kind of helps offset, you know, your lack of damage early game. If you do go by my build, this card right here gives you 10% damage bonus to minions, gives you 100 health and 75 mana. And I stack this one up with basic mana and lesser health. So you can throw this card in whenever you want. You may want to play this one first if you're like if you just want to get that farm up, if you want to push lanes really hard. I mean, I think this one really helps, especially with Gideon. I think it also works well with gadget as well, but when I do my gadget build, I'll go over that. But yeah, this is an awesome card, especially for these hard lane pushers. So those are my cards that I throw away like mid to late game for sure, probably mid game. So once I start wanting some more damage, like once we start really getting into team fights, I start building more damage and pin. So the card I usually go first is the Shadow Scroll, and that gives you 6.5 energy damage, 16 pin. Now you want this pin because you know, people are starting to build energy resistance now, you know, especially for the Murdochs, for the Grims. So people are building it, and especially tanks. You know, your carry the enemy carry may be building it depending on if they feel you're a threat. Because like if there's some Murdoch on your team, they may not build it. But even still, you still want some basic energy pin so that you can do some damage to them. Because you want to ignore the base energy pin that every character gets. So I also put a minor shock on there, and that'll give you a little more pin. And I think Gideon has a move that I can't remember the name, that's what I'm saying. I think that also shreds a little bit of energy pin, but we'll look at that when we get into his moveset. So that one right there gives you a good amount of energy damage and pin. The next one, we got this reactor. I get it with 3 major casts and 1 minor cast. The card itself gives you 6.5 energy damage and 0.3 mana regen. Now that mana regen is kind of a big deal because it helps you stay out in the field longer. And now it's not a whole bunch, but it does help. Like I used to not really build energy pen or use mana regen, but now I'm starting to get into it because it does help you, you know, stay out into the field a little bit longer, especially if you can get blue buff on top of it. It's good. So this right here gives you a nice amount of energy damage, and it gives you some pretty good regen. Now this second one, I went with an advanced spark, which is 0.9 mana regen and 2 cast. I was gonna say minor cast, but yeah, 2 cast, so 13 energy damage. And then the soulless reactor, 6.5, 0.3. So that gives you a nice amount of energy damage, and it gives you some good mana regen now. Now for a little bit extra sustainability, I went with the Staff of Adamant. Yeah, that's what it's called. So that one, major cast, and then health. So that one gives you 100 health right there. Plus that's 300 extra health. Plus, once you max out, you get that 13 energy damage. So it does pretty good. It gives you some pretty good sustainability and some good damage. And this is usually the last card that I'll build, is the Tempered Plate. And that's 3 greater guards, a guard, and a health. Now, we already talked about this card, but late game, I still want to build some type of armor. I don't want to go straight glass cannon with any character. And usually the threat for Gideon, and I'm not saying that Murdoch or Grim won't jump on you, or Richter, but usually the threats are the Chimeras, the Greystones, the Fangmouths, you know, characters like that. Or at least those are the ones that I see as threats most of the time, you know, the melee champions. So that's why I go with the greater, or with the Tempered Plate. But like I said before, if you want to throw the Tomb Barrier in there, go for it. So this is my deck build for him. Let's take a look at his moveset really quickly, and we'll go. Alright people, so Gideon's moveset we'll go over really quickly. So it's Portal Blast, that's his basic attack. Basically, you don't have to worry about leveling that up. It levels as you level, gets stronger as you level. So easy peasy there, starts out at 35 energy damage. Now Burden, this is a good move that I want to mention. Burden, it does do a little bit of damage, but the important thing about it is that it reduces their movement speed for 3 seconds. And this makes it so much easier to hit them with your Cosmic Rift. That's where the meteor comes from the sky, and that deals 100 energy damage. But as you're building, as you're leveling up, as you're increasing your energy damage, it'll start hitting harder and harder. I think with this build, it hits for almost 500. It's like late 400s. So it hits pretty good. With this Burden though, you'll catch the person in it easier if they're moving slowly. Also, it works for your ultimate, your torn space. Not your torn space, your black hole, sorry. If they're slow, it'll be harder for them to get out of your black hole. Realistically, they're not going to get out of your black hole if they're slow. So, Burden before you Cosmic Rift or black hole somebody, because they'll take the full amount of the damage, and that's what you want. Torn space, that's when you open a portal and you teleport away. And what is that, 850 units? So pretty good. Not quite as far as like Greystone's jump or whatever, but still pretty good. And the big thing about this is your opponents, not your opponent, your teammates can jump through it as well. So if you need to disengage from a team fight, you need your team to retreat, you know, spam that out, retreat, then, you know, jump through your little teleporter, and your team, well, if they're aware, if they know about this trick, they can jump through it with you. So that's a good way to get out and to get your team out of a tough situation. So prioritize your black hole, then I would say your Cosmic Rift, your Burden, and then your escape. Get your escape as soon as you can though, especially like if there's a lot of melee or a lot of ganks going on. Make sure you have that escape fairly early. I would say that over Burden early. Make sure you get that escape. Like maybe I would go Cosmic Rift first, then your Torn Space, then your Burden. But make sure you get that Torn Space fairly quickly. So that should be like the second thing. And then when it comes to upgrading, you can put that on the back burner if you like. So people, that's all I got for the Gideon build. If this helped you at all, please drop a like, share the video out. It always helps. And yeah, thanks for watching. This is Orseofkorse. We'll see you in the next video. I'm thinking about making a gadget build. I know a lot of people aren't playing her, but she's actually a beast. I mean, she's not like, you know, Sparrow or Murdoch. She's not gonna just devastate a team like damage wise, but she's a beast in her own right. So I'll go over that a little bit, and I'll do a gameplay and some highlights with her, because I really like Gadget. She's like a diamond in the rough. So thanks for watching, people. Make sure to sub so you can see the rest of my videos, and we'll see you in the next one. Orseofkorse out.